the hall from
Top
the
of
deck
Oh,
to the.
okay.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I was like, what?
Yeah.
And it's-
What
There had
happened?
to be a lot of big kite to get that.
And it says it carried 4,500 tons of coal.
She might have drawn 20 feet when she was loaded.
Yeah, right. I just can't conceive of that. Look at all the people there, the townspeople and with their
Oh, yeah.
carriages.
Well, that was a social event for sure.
So that's October of 1905. Story in the New York Times, February 10th, 1907. The coal-laden five-masted schooner Helen J. Seitz went ashore this morning, striking on a shoal 10 miles south of Barnegat. She lies about a half a mile from the beach. The vessel was bound for Boston from Baltimore. The crew was not in danger. So that's really something. I was impressed by that image. I can't imagine standing out there at Steamboat Landing today and seeing something like that. So a little bit of history here. Next item, we have meeting minutes approval, and we have a backlog of meeting minutes to be approved, starting with August of 2025, and Richard Stetson this morning submitted the revisions that the committee had asked for, and that's been addressed. The meetings of September 9th by me, and I made a correction there or two, corrected Camden Harbor, and myself as the presenter of the thingy survey data. Then we have the October minutes by Liz Joya. Any comments on the October minutes? I have none. I've read them. So we have three months of meeting minutes. Are there any comments on any of the minutes?
I haven't seen the.
What,
Did-
the August?
The ones that Richard,
Okay. Would you like to see them now?
yes, should we, I mean, were we
They were sent,
supposed to have had these?
not necessarily.
Okay,
There were a couple of minor.
There were a
things
couple of
involving
minor edits
Spelling
there.
of Ed Dodera and
It wasn't really the content that was it was the spelling of Ed's name and I think the harbor was misidentified.
right, but we hadn't gotten these before that. We'd just gotten them in that meeting to kind of look over quickly, right?
They were issued in a printed form originally in the September meeting.
Right, yeah,
Without
I didn't get I guess I didn't get a copy of those. That could be why. Okay.
Right.
I will read over them quickly.
Okay.
I guess I would change the spelling of my name, but I'm not, that doesn't really matter.
Again?
I'm used to it spelled wrong, so I don't really care, but yeah, that's okay.
how many spellings of your last name are
You
there?
can spell it however you want. Just put a bunch of vowels and you're good.
I know that feeling.
Huh. Okay, well, while Liz is looking that over, I'll look at the calendar for December. And the second Tuesday of December is December 9th. Janice is not present. Tell us if December 9th is a good day for the town. So we'll hold that until she returns. Harbor Master Report.
Well, you guys mentioned Ed Dudera. I'm not sure if I contacted the family to see if they wanted me to place the bench actually down at the harbor or leave it in my shop till next spring. And since their actual his son had his boat for like 2 weeks at the back dock and then he's leaving to Bermuda, he said, no, it'd be nice because then when my family waves goodbye as I leave, they could be around that bench. So we put it down. It looks great there. There's another bench that a gentleman, I don't know if I'm repeating myself, tell me, but there's his 12-year, every 12 years you re-up a payment and you get the town to, let's say you had a bench, you get it, you pay for the bench, the construction, and then the maintenance for 12 years, the care of it. And when that runs out, you can re-up it or you can take your bench home with you. They usually always re-up it, but not always. Once in a while, they'll give it up. Anyway, this Lyle, they had a bench and he came to me and said, I just re-upped and I want to change the epitaph. We realize we don't like the epitaph. We want to change it. I go, okay. I said, that doesn't come with the re-up of the 12 years. That's extra. He goes, oh, I was hoping you'd be able, that would count because just want to. So I said, look, I'll give it to the new epitaph and the town will split the cost with you. And we did that and we put it back and they love it. So
Who does the engraving now?
well, it was Dora for many years.
Right.
He took a shingle down. So it's a gentleman who works for he works for Lyman and Morse, and he does a great job with it. It's down, so we got to bring it down to Thomaston, and he doesn't know.
He works in Thomaston as
Yeah,
opposed
yeah.
to Camden.
And who was this bench honoring?
That was a gentleman. The last name was Lyle, and it was interesting because it was said it was two people, Sandy and John Lyle, two very amazing people, and he said, "Can we check out two very amazing people because we think it doesn't look good?" I'm like, "Sure." Maybe after many years they realized, they weren't that amazing. So I don't know. But anyways, they're happy. Today we're taking out 3 of the ramps. The ramp that goes to the day sailor float, because with the tides rising the way they are, with the ocean level rising, if you had an astronomical tide and a storm, it could hurt that ramp. So we take it off. We take the one off at Fisherman floats, the same thing. It can damage itself. And we take the one off, the new one, which goes, I call it the bridge to nowhere. The one that goes to the island. We take that off as well. We leave the main one to the main floats because it's the way it's positioned, the way we have the higher things, it doesn't get damaged. I'm also going to take the 2 boats and trailer them over to Lincolnville to get winterized today. So yeah, things look good down the harbor. I think that's
Who does that?
Don's outboard in Lincolnville.
Are the mercantiles, spars still sitting over there?
No, they're gone. They got them.
Okay.
We've got six people that have paid the money to be here for the winter. 6 different vessels at the main dock. All but one are here in place. So looking good.
Which one is missing?
I don't believe Eric Scott's got his antique wooden houseboat that he got, the 1920s houseboat.
Yeah, isn't that on a float somewhere?
It's on a float, but he paid to be at the dock. So
Oh, okay.
Is that the usual number?
it's right around there. Tom Siskey, God rest, he's gone. There's a gentleman named Rusty. He's got a beautiful wooden boat there. Who's sailed around the world, and he's a really nice guy. He's going to kind of take over. He said he wouldn't mind, helping to keep the snow free after a snowfall, so it doesn't ice up on the docks. Be in contact with me and say, hey, just so you know, someone's line just looks like it's loose. That's what Tom did with me. It's my monitor. Yeah.
Any questions or issues for the harbor master? Very good. We'll move on. I'd like to defer the fees till after we talk about the day sailors and fishermen's float and windjammers. We have applications here, and here are the hard copies from Jimmy. So there are day sailors. We have Surprise and Angica, Lively Lady, Periwinkle, Olad, Owl, Lazy Jack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Do I have that right?
Yes.
7. The harbor master have any comments on the applications?
No, Mr. Chairperson, these are the usual suspects. So it's pretty easy, cut and dry. They've been doing this play for a long time.
Is this day sailor permit issued annually?
No, 3 years.
Every 3 years?
Yeah, they changed that to 3
So
years.
we're on the 3-year.
Like the Windjammers, yep.
Yeah, okay. So there's 7 of them and that's 3 years. Any comments from the committee on the 7 applications?
So they all need approval this year.
Correct.
Okay.
Are they always all on the same 3 years? Well, I guess they would be now.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So at some point, we got them on the same schedule.
Yeah, I
but,
guess
you
with,
know,
I didn't know if
I
like
think
Lazy Jack.
Every 25
changed.
years, there's a leap year or something, but we'll deal with that later.
Is there any limit to the number we take?
Correct, 7, we're at maximum,
7.
yep.
There you go.
Okay, no comments on the day sailor applications. Windjammer applications. We have, well, no, let me step back here for a second. Regarding the day sailors, do our day sailor visitors have any comments to share?
They're busy chatting among themselves.
We're just looking at deer hunting. I'm sorry. I didn't
Any
hear you say
comments
that.
from the day sailor visitors today?
I think we've all been getting along great. It's been good down there. That's all I have to say. Thank you for the consideration of our applications.
I think this year was smoother than has been in a long time.
Oh, microphone, please.
Pass that man a microphone.
I was just commenting that I think this year went smoother than it has in a long time. And I can remember everyone got along really well. Everyone knew what everyone was doing and made it happen.
Even got theme music on that.
Let the record show that was Captain Stetson's phone. That no, Mr. Chairperson, I'd agree that it was smoother than ever. I think you guys all know and gals know that is a tight schedule. And in the past, we've had some feathers ruffled because it's easy to
5 minutes late.
be 5 minutes late and to think and to have another person think that they're doing it on purpose. And so there's a lot of good communication, and it's a well-oiled machine now. So I was very happy with the way it went.
Okay, very good. Thank you all for your comments. Windjammer applications, we have the Swift Inherit the Wind Day Sailor, sorry. Swift. So that's 8. I didn't add him in there.
No, he's Windjammer. It was put above Jeff's. I don't on the document. I'm not sure why.
Pardon me?
Is that right, Kristen?
Well, Inherit the Wind here. So that's a total of 8
Yeah.
day sailors.
Nope. Swift is a Windjammer. It was just,
No, Inherit the
Inherit
Wind.
the wind.
I missed Inherit the Wind here. So we've got,
should be 7.
That's 7.
Surprise, Angica, Lively Lady.
No, Angica is not one of our day sailors. It's a private day sailor on a private dock. Does not use the public dock. Owned by the same person who owns Surprise, but they use a separate dock They do not use the day sailor dock.
I think they're
Okay,
on that list because they sell tickets for Angica
Oh.
as their second.
Correct.
okay, very good, very good. All right, but I did miss Jeff there, Inherit the Wind. Okay, so our,
But Periwinkle, also a second boat, does use the day sailor
Yes.
float on some schedule that's apparently managed by the two of you carefully.
Yes.
okay, very good. Windjammers, Mary Day, Angelique, Lewis R. French, and Swift. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that correct, Steve? 4 Windjammers?
That is correct. 3 at the head of the harbor, 1 at the town docks. At the very end of the, easterly
4
side.
Windjammers. And what, do we have a maximum allowance for number of Windjammers?
well, the way it reads in the actual current ordinance, it says that there will be allowed 3 at the end of the easterly end of the town overnight docks, and there'd be 3 berths at the library park. As of right now, we only have 1 at the head, because remember, we had the Mercantile and Grace Bailey shared that spot. Misters had the little spot on the other side of that 70-foot dock at the end. So that would be something a possibility. If someone came to the town, they have not. We have no applications for it, but there is a probability that someone could come in and say, we would like to apply to be here at the end of the dock, which would mean that there'd have to be some discussion and decisions made by this committee and by the select board.
Okay. Does any committee members have any comments or questions about the applications from the Windjammers? No. Okay, very good. Now, the ordinance does not describe that the Harbor Committee is required to take any action on these applications, but we do like to review them. So I think we're done with that discussion.
There is a column on this paper in front of me that says Harbor Committee approval date.
Okay,
I think in the past, Mr. Chairperson, it definitely helps the select board when this committee has said, we've looked at it, we've discussed it, and we approve the applications. I think the only reason is to give them a little bit of a, if there's a note of why you think a certain application wouldn't work, if there was something available and you didn't think it fit, you have a better idea of why it wouldn't fit than the select board would, because you guys are on the water and you know the harbor most likely better than the select board. So I think that's why they have that.
okay, very good. I appreciate that comment, Steve. So let's have a vote on the applications. First, the Day Sailor Group. Do we have a motion to approve the Day Sailor applications? Nancy, thank you.
Make a motion.
Second. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor?
Do you want me to vote as
No, not on the
No,
Day
okay.
Sailors, thank you. Okay, that is a quorum, 4 of us. 4-0 Day Sailors. Motion to approve the Windjammer applications.
I so moved.
Okay.
I second.
Okay, Richard and Nancy second. Any comments on the Windjammer applications? All those in favor? Okay, 5-0. 5-0 and 4-0. Stephen Gold joins us. Okay. Moving on to harbor fees. Chriso, on October 21st, there was a discussion at the select board meeting about dinghy fees. And I listened to that and got the general impression that the select board was interested in hearing the Harbor Committee's thoughts about dinghy fees,
Correct.
not the full list of harbor fees.
We only, we only spoke directly to dinghy, but to me, it's, you're looking, I mean, if you're looking at,
These be approved. Now we're doing these.
other types of boats, whether it's kayak cracks and things, you know, that seemed all relevant.
Okay.
And I would put, I mean, I think the idea is to have you, this committee, look at sort of all harbor fees as they need to be. But you had, the previous meeting, you specifically were talking about dinghy fees.
Okay.
So more, like mooring and float fees hadn't really come up.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, let's focus on the dinghy fees, and that's a sheet that's attached to your,
Do you have one for Steve over here? One of those packets?
we'll have one.
You can share it.
Right. Okay, so what you have in front of you is the dinghy fees that are, as they are shown at the town website for the 2024, 2025 fees. And these are the breakdown of classification, resident and non-resident. We've, of course, had extensive discussion about dinghies and other such vessels. Nancy, yes.
I know we talked at our last meeting about dry storage. Should we add that category in so there's a fee for dry storage as opposed to wet storage? And I'm throwing numbers out there, but 75 for dry storage, 150 for wet storage. This is a starting point.
Okay. So let's talk about dry storage a little bit and start with Steamboat Landing. There's a rack at Steamboat Landing, at the top of the ramp.
Right, and we talked about adding something, right?
At Steamboat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, right now, Mechlin is doing work to shore up that big wall, granite wall that protects the three condominiums. And I know the town owns like those big bushes as you go down to park or load your boat. When I first got here, Rick Seibel, who was Public Works Director, said, see this little thing on the ground? That town actually owns this, and the bushes are way out. We didn't care because we didn't use it. But I think we should definitely, and Mechlin has already laid out all this extra kind of crushed stuff so he can get his machines down there. I'd love to it's only about another 4 feet of rock going out. And with that, you could have more storage for dry dinghies. You know, I would make that dry dinghies with no engines. And so folks want to come out to get to the boat. They can grab their little dinghy and just drag it down, get in and go. I think that'd be the best way. It could be for discussion. What we use that for.
And
I'd have to talk to Jeremy real quick and Audra just to make sure, you know, but I think it's totally doable. We have to get a permit, I believe.
okay, and what other dry storage does the town provide?
You got Lake Beach, Marine Ave. And that's it for dry storage. I guess you could count that one floating dock just in front of the harbor master office where boats pull up, you know, people pull up and they turn their boat over. So I guess that would be dry storage too.
Not at all clear to me that that's an appropriate term for dry.
Well, it's out of the water. It's out of the water.
Well, it is, the boat is out of the water, but.
But it's still pretty
but
desirable.
they-
Yeah.
It's on something which is in the water.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not very far from the water.
Yeah.
Yeah. I maybe I'm I'm not, designing that right. But it definitely is a prime spot. It's a really good spot. It's very desirable.
And I'm not sure I'd lump it in the same fee category with
I definitely wouldn't.
Marine Ave.
No, I
Correct.
definitely wouldn't.
I agree.
You have to drag it over gravel down here.
That,
Yes, Ron?
So are we going to add a definition to the application? I mean, we're gonna somehow, if there's going to be a separate designation for dry storage, then how do we handle that how do we identify those people who have actually applied for dry storage and those who haven't?
I actually looked at the dinghy permit application, and I would suggest that there's simply a category on there that says wet storage, dry storage. I also had some other things that we might, in a different conversation, add in to make Steve more aware of exactly what these dinghies look like, so he can,
Sticker color. or something.
yeah, color, yeah, and then he can decide where they're gonna go. So I can submit this at another time, but I think that would be pretty easy to add wet storage, dry storage, right to the dinghy permit application.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the application and the fees and the dinghies and kayaks are all part of a larger conversation. The one way of looking at them is by where they're stored or how they're stored, whether they're in the water or dry. Another way to consider a dinghy and its fees is by the type of vessel. Stephen?
First, I just have a quick question, Steve. In that area we're talking about by the condos, you're talking about taking out those bushes and not taking them out.
No, outside of the bushes.
Would there still be enough room?
Towards the water.
Well, where there's that concrete rampart that goes up like a ramp, and then the float system is attached to that.
Right.
Just before that rampart, there's basically a parking spot,
Okay,
And
so
then
there's enough room to have.
and there's enough room to take, because those big boulders are there already. All you need to do, well, right now, if you went down there, Mecklen's already added to it. We wouldn't have to add any more. If you left them where it is and we filled out, it's big rocks, so there's little craters. We got some smaller rock, and then it would be flat enough to put
A rack
a
on.
nice
Okay.
rack there.
Next, my point is, on the fee schedule, okay? I certainly understand the resident, non-resident, okay? But we've measured our docks, we've counted dinghies, we've done all this stuff. And we have all admitted that our major problem is space, okay? So that when you are seeking to permit and store a boat on town property, the issue is space. I personally resent the fact that we are charging people with over 20 horsepowers extra money and giving a discount to people with no motors because they take up the same space. And our issue is space. And as long as you fit within the 6 feet and 12 feet, whatever our regulation is, you should be paying the same fee. And I do remember where those rules came from was a kind of an eco move on the
Yeah.
part of the select.
Exactly. I remember too. Basically, they wanted to somehow make it so if you want to not have an engine, you want to, either have a, electric motor, because I think electric motors fit into no motor. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Separate
There
category,
are
yeah.
people that actually take them off and take them home.
Yeah. So that's a great note. I would have to say it would take more discussion to change my mind, but I think we should be giving a break to people that just paddle, row with no engine. I don't know. That's my personal view.
I'm pretty much in the same category with Steve on this one. I think
Which Steve?
Which Steve?
the one next to me. Yeah, yes.
The one with the beard.
You're right.
That doesn't help.
They both have beards.
That would be nice.
Oh. All right, very good. Well, the dry storage rack is a town facility. There's a cost involved in providing that. So is that less than what it costs to install and maintain a float?
Yeah.
An example, if, say on the horsepower thing, in our great new parking regulations, do we have separate fee schedules for cars under 200 horsepower or cars over 200 horsepower or electric cars?
No.
I'm not able to speak to that.
I'll speak to it. We don't.
Okay.
But we may soon have a break for electric cars.
I think we're talking about apples and oranges here. They're different things. And the town has a lot more vehicle parking space, and your use of it isn't, you don't get to buy a parking space for the season. There are probably people who would like to do that, but.
It's my opinion that a horsepower 20 and over has a more significant impact on the environment at the harbor. Pollution and noise.
And I believe the committee before this one didn't, I believe it was Ben Ellison that didn't like the fact that, people were basically getting a permit for a dinghy and it's really their boat, because they got a 40 horsepower on the back of a pretty nice hard bottom inflatable that just fits the 14 foot. And that rubbed them the wrong way. That made them say, hey, we should be charging more for this.
I'd like to pose a question to the committee. Should there be a different fee for a dinghy, such as a rowboat, a fixed hull vessel, or an inflatable, considering all of those together, as opposed to a kayak or a canoe? Should there be different fees for dinghies and kayaks and canoes?
I mean, I feel that the canoes are light and, Ron made a point, which the part I agree with is that somehow we should make it so if you can easily lift your kayak and put it in your car and not store it and not take up space, you should. Because I think you should, because you don't need to have that cluttered if you can. We all know that in this society, we also have folks that just can't do that. Their shoulders are bad but I still believe that those kayaks and canoes and such, that they're not using them for the most part to get to a boat. Whether or not that matters or not, I'm not sure. But I think we should make it so those shouldn't be in the water because they're easy enough to slide down the beach or do something. And so we should try to make it so they want to go to the racks instead of being in the water. And at the same time, we should also make it so they want to keep them at home if they can.
Okay, yeah, Nancy.
Wouldn't that, if we created that dry storage fee, wouldn't the kayaks and the canoes go into that category?
We have kayaks and canoes in the water.
It seems like,
Many, but a few, yeah.
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 I mean, we could create a dry storage fee in case that happens. I mean, we don't
Yeah,
have to
I mean-
say because we put, it could be when applicable or something,
Right.
just because we put it on there. I don't know, just a thought. If something creative happens for the next season, maybe we have that on there. If we don't put it on there, then we don't have, I don't know. I'm to say we don't have to make all those decisions today, but to
Right.
put it maybe on the fee schedule in case that becomes available.
Ron?
I would like, once again, to address the issue of the creep that we're experiencing with providing storage for canoes and kayaks on whatever space we can possibly identify as potential storage space. I think we're pursuing this as some sort of a goal that we've set for ourselves to try to establish as much storage space as we possibly can for kayaks and canoes. And as I think about it, I realize that it's actually kayaks and canoes are a excellent solution to the problem of the overcrowded situation that we have. They are designed, constructed, intended to be used, transported to the place of use, used, and then transported back home again. And the argument's been made that there are those, perhaps, Steve suggests we have an elder population and they can't accomplish getting the kayak on and off of the top of their vehicle or in and out of the back of their truck. My observation there is, having done a fair bit of kayaking myself, is that if you're not physically capable of getting a kayak or a canoe in and out of a truck or on and off the top of a vehicle or up and down the shore, you probably shouldn't be kayaking. A kayaker should be physically capable of getting themselves back into a kayak if they capsize it. And that requires a certain level of physical strength and agility. So I don't see that argument holds much water. So I would just propose that we consider seriously not permitting kayaks and canoes. I don't see that the town is under any obligation to provide storage for types of vessels that are by design intended to be transported and used and then transported home.
Liz, just 1 second, please. Ron, you said we should consider not permitting kayaks and canoes. Did I hear that correctly?
Correct. Not providing, but the town is not under any obligation to provide storage for personal items such as kayaks and canoes. I mean, we still, to the rest of my interpretation and what I've heard conversed here, we still haven't decided what a dinghy is. We're sort of stumbling over these definitions. But I think one simple way to look at it is that if you look at an item and it's a kayak, you look at a canoe, it's a canoe. There's not much problem identifying what it is. I guess we're stumbling over the definition of what's a dinghy or a skiff or a pram or but I think what we need to focus on is what was the intention of use in order to clarify that for the sake of discussion.
Okay, I listened to you, and I'll get to you, Liz, in just a second. So, Ron, do you want to prohibit the storage of kayaks and canoes at town facilities?
I'd love to. I would.
Very good.
I mean, I would make that motion if I thought it stood a prayer of passing, but I'm just expressing my own personal view, and it's also a view that's shared by a substantial number of people who I've had a conversation with about it. There are a lot of people that agree with me that we are imposing these bright colored plastic things on our green space. And it's a policy. It's not there is no regulation that requires us to do it. It's just we've fallen short in our in our definitions or understandings of what the intention of the use of this storage or access space. And I think that's a critical perspective when we have the conversation is the dinghy space at the floats is we're providing access. Whereas a storage rack is a storage rack. We call it a storage rack whenever the conversation comes up. It's a storage rack. So we're providing storage for some people and access for others.
So would, if I'm understanding, you would feel that docking a kayak or canoe in the water at a town float would be okay?
No,
You're objecting to the racks on land. Is there just,
for the sake of clarity, I just don't think that chances are if there's a kayak or a canoe that is tied up at a dinghy space in the water, it's because they missed their chance to get it into a rack or onto a float. Another part of the conversation is length. We have a sign at the launching ramp that says that the boats that are stored in those racks should be 10 feet or under. And that's not being complied with.
okay, thank you. Liz?
I just, as Ron, as you were talking, the one thing that that kind of stood out to me is that when we're talking about the issue we kind of started this was overcrowding, but the storage racks aren't the overcrowding issue. I didn't think. I thought the overcrowding was in the water. And I guess we probably have a count on our survey, but I don't think there was very many canoes or kayaks in the water. So I would say kind of the exact opposite, that having the storage racks is keeping the kayaks and canoes out of the water, therefore relieving space for the dinghies. So that doesn't, correct me if I'm wrong, but that I see what you're saying. But I think actually that, there's not the overcrowding piece other than what you said, the plastic colorful things on the storage, that's not cramming up in water storage. And I also, I'm not sure to say that there's, things we're not obligated to do. There's probably a lot of things that we're not obligated to do that, it's providing access. And I think with the way things are with people financially, I think that a lot, kayaks are sometimes a much more affordable option to get out on the water, and whether they're ugly, whether they're plastic, whether they should be hauled out of the water. I do think everybody who is motivated has a right to get out on the water.
Thank you, Liz. Ron?
I guess if there isn't a demand for storage in the racks, then why are we constantly looking for more places to put racks? I'm assuming that this.
I think we were looking for racks for dinghies, right?
Dinghies.
For dinghies.
Okay, so if you're gonna draw a distinction between dinghies and kayaks and canoes, then we need to do that.
But I think we were looking for dry storage for some of those larger boats that somebody might use once a month or something. They can pull it. Is that kind of what we were
that's what I was thinking.
to get a few of the larger boats out of the water? Yes, I see what you're saying though. Yeah.
But that's the basis of my point, is that if we're all going to acknowledge that we have a space problem, which translates to an access problem, we're trying to allow as much access as we possibly can without making it awkward for the people who are involved in the process of access. We've got So the simplest solution, from my perspective, is just take a category of this, by definition, canoes and kayaks, out of the picture.
But like putting
That
in at
opens up-
Marine Ave takes some of the burden off of maybe Steamboat Landing or, if we're spreading out, I know you don't want the kayaks in there at all, but if we're spreading them out a little bit, you're taking the burden off of maybe one area.
Well, but I just go back to the point that your point was that,
In the water, there's not that many kayaks, right?
okay, yeah, I'm not sure how that pertains to the conversation, but
Well, because you
We're-
said that the overcrowding was the issue, and I thought we were worried about overcrowding in the water.
well,
Do I have that
that's
wrong?
part of the
That's what-
conversation. That's part of the conversation, but that doesn't address my concern, which is the overflow and the policy that we seem to have established, that we're going to look for any possible nook and cranny that we can put up another rack to store kayaks and canoes. We're not storing dinghies.
Well, I think that's
I
what
think
we're
that's
talking
what, I
about.
think that's what we're talking about, is establishing some dry storage for
Dinghies.
those kinds of boats, that inflatables that aren't used very often, rather than having to take up space
To
in the
take
water.
some space out of the harbor.
But if all the space in those, if all that dry storage space is already taken up by kayaks, and it is at the launching ramp, and it appears to be that it is at Lake Beach, it appears that every time we provide another space, an additional space for dry storage, it gets consumed by kayaks and not so much
I
canoes.
don't see that as a bad
We
thing.
just
I-
simply
I
say
don't
no.
Oh,
see
hold
that as a
on.
bad thing.
Hold on, we're kind of having an open dialogue here. Stephen?
First of all, I don't see a problem with having a permit for kayaks and canoes that stipulates you can't be on the dock, and we provide enough dry storage for those boats, which I think there's a loaded issue where we keep saying storage and access. Well, racks close to the water are not like storage, thinking seasonally, people are putting their boats there because they don't have room in their garage. They're using them to go in the water. And as a community, I think we should be serving all those who have an interest in using what everybody says is our greatest asset, the ocean and the harbor. And I think it's part of our responsibility to serve the community as best we can. I thought we had concluded at one of our last meetings that what we really needed to do was build more space. Now, part of that may be racks, part of it may be the L we talked about off of Steamboat Landing. And just in passing, your comment about the ecological aspect of over 20 horsepower motors, are we going to stipulate whether they're 2-cycle or 4-cycle, since that affects their potential pollution? And how about a 100 horsepower electric motor, which exists? I think we have to go back to the space issue. If you want to give people who row a break, that's like a lifestyle decision, which I didn't think we regulated.
I think that having a canoe or kayak different
Yeah.
from a hard bottomed, I think is a great.
And potentially, we're
well,
adding a
It
policing
might do
issue
something, but
for the
I
harbor
think that's
master.
okay to differentiate that.
In terms of, there is just a weight difference, and in terms of impact on the docks, a Dyer Dow with a couple of oars is a much less, that's much less weight on a cleat or a tie-off than a rib with a 40-horse outboard. So, and I think that's why traditionally there's been a distinction for the two types of dinghies, because just the impact, especially now we don't have the sort of haul-out tie-offs that some harbors do in the same way, and they typically, a dinghy a rowing dinghy takes up less space than a inflatable. Most people don't have an inflatable and row it because they don't row very well. But so but they take up 15 to 20% more width than a traditional skiff.
Which leads us to our, space problem.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you want to start doing permits based on the square footage, impact of the boat, that might be one thing. I mean, certainly how a lot of boat storage yards are going these days.
Chriso, and listening to the select board meeting on October 21st, there was mention of select board fee reviews in January, in the month of January. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And so that means that the select board would like the harbor committee's input before that time, before those meetings in January.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
That's when all the town fees get set. And I mean, just in terms of broad philosophical discussions about access and, a raft. To me, a raft, keeping a dinghy in a raft for the summer is not storage, it's where you keep it. And most of them, everybody takes them home and does put it in the garage. I do think that if we start saying everybody has to have a dinghy, has to bring their kayak down, I don't know where people are gonna park while they're kayaking out in the harbor for the afternoon. So it is an access it is not a storage, it is access. In terms of the fee structure, it's pretty straight. I mean, you look around, other towns do have a distinction of if you're on a float, there's a fee. If you're in a raft, there's a fee, regardless of whether it's no one's even mentioned stand-up paddleboards. People store those on racks at the harbor edge and pay the same as a kayak or anything else. It's just,
Jet skis. Don't shoot me.
I don't think you can put a jet ski in a rack.
No, but I'm
I
saying
mean, yeah.
for what storage that could,
Yeah.
But
that
personally,
could
who
come
cares
back.
how
That
we're,
could
I
happen.
mean, that's your personal choice, how you're getting out there.
But in terms of the actual, and then to your point of what is the fee structure and when do we set that? It's relatively straightforward that there's a distinctive fee for being in the water and not in the water. And beyond that, if you want to get into engines and non-engines, that's another question, but that's a fairly traditional distinction.
Did I hear you endorsing distinct fees for in the water and not in the water
Yeah,
storage?
so if you're on a rack, there's a fee for that. That's less than being on a float.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay, thank you for that idea. Looking at the list here of the fees that we have right now, I'd like to focus on things that we might easily agree on. Does it, do we endorse the resident, a distinction between resident and non-resident rates?
Yeah.
Is that a good thing?
Yes.
Okay. Do we endorse having a adjusted rate after August 15th?
Well, Mr. Chairperson, just to back up for 1 second, just to remind you that as far as the resident, non-resident rates, the Army Corps allows municipalities to charge up to 5 times the amount if you're not a resident. Right now, we do double. Just putting that out there.
Right, okay, thank you. Are we comfortable with having an adjusted rate after August 15th?
I do find folks at Harbor Committee.
Thank you, Aaron. After August 15th.
Does anyone have a statistical analysis of that? I mean, do we sell many permits after
Yep,
August 15th?
we do. We do, and we may change our policy, but we're not hard but right around that area is when we would start really checking. Early in the season, it's like, okay, whatever. But then all of a sudden, right, July, late July, right around August, we realized, okay, well, someone's going to try to make it to that point. They've had their boat in illegally. So nowadays, the last 5 years since we are really chalked up, we do say, hey, they're hoping they can make it to August 15th and say, oh, okay, I'll pay the half fee. You know what I mean? Like they put them in and they're there.
Oh, and they haven't gone for their permit.
They haven't gone for their yearly permit. They wait but so now we go, we're a little harder as far as, knocking out the tag saying, hey, this isn't permitted. See Harbor call Harbor Master. And if it's still there in 8 days, we bring it to the dinghy purgatory.
Well, why don't we make it July 30th? I mean, I'm not quite seeing the, who puts a boat in August 15th?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good idea. I don't know when and how that came into.
So what
Effect.
you're saying that it's
What's your-
coaxing people to pay something.
Well, because someone might come and say, I don't want to. Look, they come in at a certain late and say, do I have to pay? I want it to be here illegally, but it's half the season's already over. So do I have to pay the full thing?
If they were there, they should pay the full. fee.
Sure, but
They were there before.
let's not ruin it for the folks that do come late
Right.
and say, well, I want to put my boat here now, and it's half the season's over. Maybe August 15th is. Maybe Steve's right. Maybe that's more than half the season. Maybe we should make it.
The other thing is you're doing the time thing. August 15th, our space problem doesn't disappear.
It starts to, but by September, our space problem
Right,
starts to
by
disappear.
September, but
I say August 1st, you have to go and any dinghies that are non-permitted, they have to pay the full price fee. That 2 weeks first 2 weeks in August has to be the enforcement. Because as you said, we don't want to penalize the people who might be coming in
Yeah,
legitimately late.
yeah.
Is there a way you could have the authority to prorate it based on when they go in?
I mean, I'm sure, yeah, I could. I mean, but would I really need to? I mean,
It just seems kind of arbitrary, the August 15th thing.
you could change the date a little sooner, I guess. August 1st.
I'd make it later. Why make it sooner?
Right, making it later makes.
Well, make it June 30th. I mean, who's benefiting there?
I don't know. Captain Stetson would be better at this because he was probably on the committee when that other date came in.
Yeah, I think it's been there quite a while.
A late season permit.
Yeah, that's basically what it was. It's like, oh, do I have to pay the full thing because I just got here, I just moved here, or I was somewhere else or whatever. My little dinghy was over at this lake for the whole summer. Now I want to put it here, and it's half the season's over. Do I have to pay the whole thing? Well, not if it's after August 15th. You don't. I think that's exactly where it came from. So
I'd be in favor of impoundment of non-permitted vessels.
will we do that? Will we have Jimmy Leo, God rest his soul, had we used to call it dinghy purgatory, and he'd tow him over to the Tibbetts float. And I guess it's pretty protected in the cove, and he'd tie him up there. And so people would be like, where's my dinghy? I'm like, oh, did you have a sticker? No. Okay, well, it's in purgatory. And you could charge, its ordinance says I can charge $100. It's $100. We had to tow your dinghy. We had to bring your dinghy out of the way so the people that did pay have a spot. I mean, yet again, I'd let them go get it, and I'd just be a slap on the hand and say, don't do it again. And I usually don't charge the $100, but I could start.
But they should have to then go pay their full.
Definitely,
dinghy
I would.
Yeah.
That's true, especially if it's.
If they get impounded and then it's after August 15th, but they were
Yeah.
impounded before that, they would need to go get their full year or full season.
And if you add the $100 thing that for the tow fee, which I'm allowed to, then it kind of adds up almost the same.
Okay. So that one wasn't so easy. Yes, Ron?
Well, just for the sake of clarity, I'm looking through this list. We've got non-resident listed a couple of times and it's 250. I'm not sure what we're doing here with.
That's the structure of the fee schedule at the town website.
It is a little confusing.
Yeah, but we've got the top of the.
I can't explain it. That's the way it's presented at the town website.
Well, I just made some comment scribblings on the piece of paper in front of me. Yeah, non-resident is on there twice. If you're a non-resident, there's no over a 20 horsepower distinction.
Correct.
Are these supposed to be in columns somehow?
Well, it's just very confusing
Yeah.
the way this is laid out. It's just, I don't know whether it's redundant or is there a point to it?
I think resident, non-resident, under there it's a couple, is like the bottom three. So over 20, but then there's non-resident. Yeah, that doesn't make weird.
There's also, in one part, there's non-resident taxpayer, and that doesn't appear in the second part.
Correct. We kind of need to start over on this piece of paper and. is it- Well, I'm not sure that there's any contradictions. I can't quite identify whether there's any contradictions here, but it's pretty convoluted.
Well, is there a difference between a no motor? I mean, there should be a difference, resident and non-resident for all of these, right?
Yeah, I can have Jimmy.
I think it needs to be,
Yeah.
it should be like resident and non-resident, and then
Yeah.
the different, I think it's all there. I think it's
Yeah,
just not set
exactly.
up.
It just needs to be tweaked. I can show that to Jimmy and redo it.
Scratch the first non-resident 250 off the list.
Yeah, that's,
Well, we've got a definition problem. I mean, we got a resident / non-resident taxpayer. So we're obviously stumbling over it's a bit convoluted, the difference between resident and non-resident. We're qualifying the non-resident as a taxpayer. So that means, okay, they don't live here 6 months of the year,
Oh, okay.
but yet they pay taxes.
the whole year.
They pay taxes on the
Yeah.
property that they do own.
Yeah, that's confusing to have that there. I agree. And so we could basically,
I'm not suggesting that we eliminate the non-resident taxpayer. I go along with that, but we need to we just have to have two separate columns
Yeah.
here. We need a resident, non-resident taxpayer column, and we need a non-resident, non-taxpayer column.
yeah, something like that. I would just make it a resident, non-resident, and then have a definition of what a resident is.
The way that,
They can
the
figure
way
that
that,
out.
Yeah.
the way that you pulled this data is not quite how it. So if you look at the fee chart on the website, there's a category that says resident, non-resident tax.
Oh, it's more clear on the
Yeah. So then you
flow
have,
sheet.
so you have someone who is a resident or is a non-resident taxpayer, meaning someone who owns property in Camden but doesn't live here full-time, or someone who lives here full-time. You're both taxpayers.
Same category, yeah.
They're one category. And then it is under 20 feet. I mean, I'm on moorings right now, but dinghy fees is the same thing. Then you have someone with over 20 horsepower and no electric. Then you have a second category, non-resident. Non-resident, no motor.
Can somebody print that off?
So, well, it is this, it's just a little easier to see on, that it's, what you're saying is that someone with a dinghy who is a resident is 125. Somebody who is a resident with a dinghy with over 20 horsepower is 225.
So it's just those first two are in a column.
And, well, it's,
Oh, but then there's.
no, it continues similar, but the assumption is that that's someone with that type of boat who is it's still a little convoluted, and it's not, and again, that's why having the conversation of trying to clarify all of these fees is what the point, because it isn't.
We need a copy of that.
Yeah, well, it is basically the same. It's just when it gets translated onto a piece of paper, it's a little more confusing.
Right, scratch the first 250,
Yeah, that one needs to go.
non-resident 250. Then the list conforms to what's presented on the website. Okay, how about the dinghy winter permit, $50? Are we generally in agreement that that's acceptable?
It's usually hardcore locals that just want to leave it there because it can be a nice day where they can, and there's no demand because there's a ton of space. So
How does that affect lobstermen that are, do they pay, first of all, do they pay a regular dinghy fee?
lobstermen?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Right, so they pay their commercial fee and they pay a dinghy fee.
correct.
All right. Well, their season's usually a little longer. Do they pay a winter dinghy fee?
If they're going to be there all winter, yeah.
Okay.
If they're there for half the month of November, probably not.
Yeah.
As a practical matter.
Okay. Dinghy removal at $100, was that ever assessed?
I mean, I've charged that maybe 4 times in my
In how many years?
25 years.
Uh,
I mean, literally, if I'm tweaked because of it, and it's someone then I'll be like, no, but, we told you twice to get rid of it, and you didn't. Usually it's folks that don't know, and they're just ignorant, and we're just more of an educational thing.
Is your reluctance to impose it because you think it's too high, number's too high?
No, I don't think it's too high. I mean, if you really think about it, you need to. I mean, if I'm down there, it's a pretty lickety split to just take it and tow it over to Tippet's Barge and leave it there. But it is a pain in the butt because especially if it's a busy, and that's how I'll say, if it's all of a sudden it's like in the middle of some event and I got to pull one of my guys off or I've got to go do it because it's really in a bad position and it has no sticker, then it's like a double winger and it's like, yeah, pay the $100. No, I don't think it's too high. I mean, I think it's good to leave it there. So again, if it's someone who knew they shouldn't do it and again was just being just flagrantly,
Obstinate.
yeah, then
Someone
blatant.
trying to cheat the system.
Right.
and Get a free dinghy spot.
Yeah.
Okay. How about the distinction of a reduced rate for no motor or electric motor? Comments on that? Is that a raised hand?
I mean, this was talked about quite a bit 4 or 5 years ago, and the select board got involved. And again, I think it's good the way it is, but you guys can discuss it.
Any other comments from committee members on that? Ron?
I think the attempt is to encourage people to not have boats down here with outboards on them. I mean, it looks like to Steve's comment that we're renting the space and the space is clearly defined. It's no more than 6 feet and no more than 14 long. So regardless of what you put in that space, it should be permitted. But this is an effort to try to encourage people to do more rowing and less outboarding. So are we stepping into the realm of trying to establish
I think it's.
how people use the harbor?
I believe people row as a matter of choice.
I think it's the
But
environmental factor, not the physical exertion.
There are
Right.
rowers. People like to row. They don't want a motor.
I'm pretty much aware of that, Elliot. I wasn't allowed to own an outboard when I was a kid. If I was gonna get there, I was gonna row.
Nice.
So I'm well aware of that some people choose to row because they enjoy it for whatever reason.
Should rowers get a break?
Well, that's one way to look at it, or should powerboat owners be penalized?
What about a lesser environmental fee? I don't know. I see both sides of the picture here from an environmental standpoint and
But
space.
We're witnessing what happens when we impose policies on that may or may not have been founded in the open exchange. I think I'm all in favor of trying to establish the character of the harbor and maintain the character of the harbor. So I would support policies that do that, less noise, more people physically involved, more people physically active. I wouldn't argue against trying to encourage that, but I'm not sure that's our purview. Just for the sake of, argument. For the sake of discussion. I don't know what other avenues we have to try to establish the character of the harbor, other than by establishing policy.
I know we've been talking about space, so I think that's kind of in our brain is the space factor, which I agree with. And you said the select board did discuss that because of environmental, the motors. Is that what that?
I can't speak from
Okay.
knowledge about that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just
that's it.
saying space is kind of in our brains right now.
So
There might be
in the past, this committee in the past that said people are putting bigger and bigger outboards and they're using that as you put a 40 horsepower on a 14-foot inflatable and they're using that as their boat to get out to the islands, and they thought that was kind of getting out of what the dinghy space should be allowed to have.
Do we need to have a higher something for really, really big ones?
Well,
and have these small ones
well,
not make a difference?
It was a start to show, hey, we're going to charge you more if you're going to have a big engine, and that's your use.
But that's not the case on this fee schedule. Anybody with even a small one has a higher than a
Yeah.
motor.
Exactly. And that's because that was a different subject where some of the select board wanted to kind of say, "Look, let's try to make it so it's more eco-friendly and give a break for that." That was the direction they were going anyway. But Mr. Chairperson, I just need to say that the crane's here and I need to go, but I was just going to ask you, are you going to go over fisherman float applications? 'Cause
Yes, I am. I realize. that.
Is there a way if you have any questions on that, I could answer them before I go?
Yes, let's do that.
Is that okay to take that out of the council? Because then I don't want to put those ramps in the wrong spot.
We had 8 applications for Fisherman's Float.
And-
There was one person who dropped out. And that was, who did not apply?
Uncle Herb,
Who?
Uncle Herb Harrell.
Herb did not apply.
Harrell, yeah, he doesn't need that. He said he doesn't need it.
Uses-
He uses steamboat landing and he only has so many traps, so it's.
And Owen Feener.
Owen Feener, a Vessel Reliance, is the newcomer. He's been around, but he's never asked to use that. He's a great young man. He's the youth of the lobster fleet. And he's a great kid. He listens to instructions. He plays nice with the other guys.
Right, he says, how many traps will you fish? He has 400, eventually 800. Once my license allows 100 more traps each year. Okay,
I would say for you, so you guys know, because you may or may not know this, he's really the only, well, besides Herb. Herb has 300 traps, but none of these other guys are fishing anywhere near that. They're not fishing because the price went up so much for bait and bulbs are down. And because of the storm and they were doing other projects, no one was fishing this year except for Owen, and he was not using it. So we basically only have two fishermen, real fishermen. Herb, who hasn't even applied, and Owen.
what about
Didn't
Toby and-
set
Toby,
a certain
yeah.
amount of traps?
I didn't see him pull any traps this year. He was too
Toby
busy.
and Adam and Brad?
Adam and Brad did not fish. They were too busy fixing from the storms. They had too many big jobs and they couldn't do it. They decided not to. I'm sure they'll probably put some traps out, but maybe not.
They both list 800 traps.
I think they're allowed to do that, but I know they didn't do that this summer.
Mhm, okay. All right, well, so are there any questions about the applications? I have hard copies from Jimmy here. But that's the list. Barney Appleton, yes, Nancy.
No, go ahead, if you could
Barney
read them.
Appleton, David Emery, Owen Feener, Dominic has an application, as he did last year. Adam Scott, Brad Scott, Art Tibbetts, Toby Winkelhofer. Any comments? Yes.
Just
Nancy.
clarification for me, so Periwinkle is using the Day Sailor dock.
Yep, and this is, you can talk to Dom about this if you want, I'm gonna kind of stay out of it. But
Yeah.
He has a commercial halibut and tuna, and then
Okay.
there's that is specifically. what-
Separate.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, it's separate. And he once in a while, he'd like to,
Production.
yeah, once in a while, he wanted to use it and he's like, well, he would. Then I said, why don't you just apply to use that?
But we're
So-
not picking up.
Yeah, there's no passionate trade involved. It's just
Oh, good.
gear, cleaning his vessel at the end of the day, once in a while.
Did go halibut fishing, and he caught no halibut. I just want to let everybody know that.
Better
Yeah, I
luck,
just
better
was-
luck next year. Thanks for that.
No, you don't have to refund him, but he didn't catch anything.
Okay, any further dialogue on the Fisherman's Float applications? Ron?
Well, it's been pointed out that some of these people aren't fishing. That doesn't, I'm not suggesting that they don't deserve to have access and require access because of what their commercial aspect that they're involved in. They're doing marine construction or mooring tending or whatever it is they're involved in. I don't think should disqualify them from using that space, but we're kind of tripping over our definitions here. We're not clear on who's actually using it to fish, that space to fish from. And that sort of needs to be addressed, I think, because we are required to maintain that space for fishing. We're not required to maintain it for access for commercial construction or mooring work. When I say we're required, it's part of our
I think we have to make room for the.
meeting up to the requirements of the Army Corps of Engineers in terms of receiving federal funding and that type of thing.
I think there's kind of a triage on the ordinance where like a full-time fisherman would get first, no matter where.
We already,
Yeah, there's like
we already have that in
Yes, you
place.
would never give somebody
If
just a marine.
you bring up a
industry.
great point, it's already in place and we can go to the ordinance to show you. In the ordinance, it says when people apply to use this dock system, which we're calling the commercial fishing dock system, you have a hierarchy: resident full-time, non-resident full-time, resident part-time fisherman, and non-resident part-time fisherman. And it goes in that category if there's more applicants than the system can hold. We've never gotten that, but we may.
So you wouldn't want to give it to somebody who's doing marine
If
industry over Owen. who's
if
fishing
Owen, if
full-time.
people like Owen Feener, young fishermen, come up the ranks, and all of a sudden next year you guys have 12 applications, new applications of resident fishermen, then you'd have to make a decision and say, okay, well, Art Tibbetts, great guy, he's not a resident and he's not fishing. He uses it once in a while. To be honest, Art uses that once every 2 years. He just pays the fee, and he just in case he needs it.
Or he's paying for the parking space.
When he needs it, but I've never seen him park there. I mean, literally maybe once, Ron, in 2 years, he might have a guy parked there because he's doing something, but pretty low
You
impact.
have a fee to use the crane if you're not permitted as a commercial fisherman.
No, and that's off subject, but no. But Ron, good point. That's already in place. When you guys are looking at these applications, you then bring to the select board, and the select board then can say, okay, well, here's why the committee said we should give, preference to these because they're resident full-time fishermen.
So if we're not filling, well, what is the number of spaces that we have allocated?
Right now?
Yeah.
Well, right now there's 8 applications. We don't know, unlike the Day Sailor dock where we have it set, here's how many we're gonna give away. We don't have that yet. It says that whatever the harbor master thinks the current system could actually hold, which
We have a limited number of designated parking spaces. So that could be the guiding,
that could be the guiding for sure. Because if all fishermen come at once,
well, it's part of what they're receiving when they get their,
correct.
the fisherman access granted, is that they are being granted a parking space. That's part of what they're paying for.
Correct.
So we've got a limited number of parking spaces, so for the sake of conversation, that could in fact limit the number of permits that we grant.
In the end, it would, unless we wanted to actually, again, in the future, if you had 15 new young people or people that or full-time resident commercial fishermen, we may have to say, hey, we need to add some more commercial fishing spots.
Well, one might argue that they're not all going to be there at the same time.
Correct.
So maybe we could grant twice as many permits as we have parking spaces for.
I would think that'd be a bridge we'd have to cross when we came to that issue.
But so at this point, in this ladder of
Preference or
preference,
hierarchy, yeah.
we don't have a designation for commercial construction or marine construction, and we don't have a designation for mooring work.
Inspector, no, and that'd be something we should put in as of right now. It's not an issue now, but it could be. So we should maybe think about designating that area right now as fishermen / commercial, marine commercial use. And then you'd have to say, well, who gets preference? If there's more people that apply for it, because right now it's not an issue. Toby does both. In a certain area, he'll be doing a lot of mooring work, and then he would usually in the past move right into fishing. And then be done with fishing and go back to moorings in the end to get all the moorings winterized. Same with the Scott brothers.
We wouldn't want to create a situation where if we don't have fishermen using the space, we set up a situation where we don't have anybody using the space
Correct.
because it's designated strictly for fishing.
Correct.
So we're already stepping over the bounds by allowing it to be used by marine contractors and mooring services.
Yeah, exactly.
And the only avenue that they have to apply for that access is as fishermen.
Because they have a commercial license as fishermen. Correct.
But I mean, that's the only avenue that's open to them to apply for the use of that space, is if they continue to describe themselves as fishermen.
Oh, like maybe they should be able to apply under that marine industry.
That's my
Yeah.
suggestion, is that we broaden that definition, provided that we don't get in trouble with
Correct.
the Army Corps of Engineers and lose our funding because we've given Because we're not giving priority to marine contractors, or we're not giving priority to mooring maintenance
Exactly.
contractors. They're using the space because we don't have enough fishermen to
Because, yeah,
make use of it.
Wouldn't that require an ordinance change because it specifically says fishermen?
again, because it said commercial fishermen and there was, I could talk to Jeremy about that to see if we need to actually change that in the ordinance or we just change the name of it in the application. I can get back to you on that.
I think fishermen should be the priority, but
It already is.
yeah, but I
It
think,
has to be.
We're putting it on
Yeah.
higher.
That's my
but there,
point.
but if,
It has to be. We, part of our funding is,
right.
we having provided.
Great topic. It's a great topic. It's not the topic we're on now because I want to get out of here and I want to say okay to but it is a great topic. It is a great topic. It needs to be talked about.
The parking was pretty talking about the parking spots,
Yeah, I'm not.
pretty
I'm
underutilized.
just throwing it out
And the
there.
parking
Yeah.
lot would be completely full and fishermen was really the only spaces of it, just kind of from being down there, just.
But Steve, anyone who has need of the crane can use it if there's not a fisherman.
As long as they've gone through the safety and they've signed a paper and they know the safety, that's,
I mean, if you deny a mooring guy a permit, he still needs that facility to load mooring blocks. In other words, if we had 12 fishermen or whatever the number is, okay, and we said, well, we got to give them all to the fishermen, so you mooring guys can't have a permit, we still want them to be able to use it because they load mooring blocks.
when we come to that chapter, we'll have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Because right now it's the same guys and it works out really nice.
We have 8 applicants. And last year we had 8 applicants. 1 dropped out. We have 1 new one.
Fine, not a problem.
They all have commercial fishing licenses.
And they all have commercial fishing license.
Well, we have, the access that's under that crane is, I don't think that falls under the category of being restricted.
Rivers and I got to go.
Use only by fishermen.
No, I know that. I just,
That space keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. We used to be able to bring an 80-foot boat in there and load freight to Martinicus and Monhegan. We can't do that anymore. It's just been encroached upon slowly over the years to the point now where we've got pretty limited access for anybody who wants to. I mean, I brought my boat in, it's just 40 feet and couldn't get her parallel to the dock to get her mast up. That's only a 40-foot boat. So we've lost a lot of access down there.
Do we have a motion to approve the fisherman float applications?
I approve the
Second.
motion.
Any further discussion on these applications? All those in favor? And
oh,
Liz, you shall recuse yourself. All those in favor? Very good. 5-0.
I looked over those minutes. I don't know if you want to approve those and get those over with.
Okay, Liz has looked over the
Is there
minutes.
any
We
way
have
can I-
minutes for 3 meetings. August, September, October. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes? Second. Richard seconds. Any further discussion on the meeting minutes, August, September, October? All those in favor? Oh, Liz, you have a question?
No, I was sorry, still voting.
Oh, you're voting. Okay, all those in favor?
Publish those babies.
Publish those minutes. Okay, very
that
good.
was an illegal vote.
All those opposed? None. Thank you. Now we can get back to our discussion about,
If you're, wait a minute, you're
You're
full member now.
all right, Dom, thank you. Dinghy fees. We need to submit our recommendations before January select board meetings. So where do we stand on the issue of permitting kayaks, canoes, and stand-up paddle boards and other such personal vessels? Should they be permitted for a fee?
I think yes, and for dry storage only, not in the water.
And I would think if there's somebody who really has an issue, that can be talked
If
about
they
with
have-
the harbor master. You know, I always think
I would say 3 doctor's letters.
I mean, maybe it's a doctor's you know,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think if there is truly a reason, I think it's always good to hear somebody's
Right.
reasoning why, and,
They-
you know,
right.
maybe they, yeah.
So what is the reasoning behind that?
Takes up space, and it can easily go on a rack or be
It's
transported, like you say.
The same as
So
putting
you're
on a car,
thinking-
but a little easier for the
Yeah.
person.
Your thinking is that you're freeing up dinghy space at the floats?
Yeah, a little bit,
Little bit.
or also preventing the encroachment of more kayaks and canoes.
One might argue that the more dinghies, the more kayaks and canoes that are using the dinghy docks, the more space there is available for more people to use to get access, because they're narrower. I mean, we haven't actually gone through the process of measuring the total dock space that we have available to tie dinghies up to.
We have done that.
Yes, we have.
You weren't there, but, you know, several members and a citizen, we down there, we measured every dock.
Okay, so we have that number?
Yeah, it's not a perfect science, of course. There's
Well,
some
especially
variables,
since some of it
you know.
involves right angles.
I guess I
Yeah.
don't know, Ron, if we take a couple kayaks and canoes out of the water, that frees up a little bit of room in the water.
Correct.
We're-
And it
I
and
would
prevents
imagine-
more.
I would imagine, I know, Ron, you'd like to not have the racks. I imagine that would be hard to get rid of in this. at this-
Absolutely.
To get rid of how many, for whatever racks we
I
have.
think,
I would
Ron,
imagine that's gonna be hard to do. So what we're doing is taking a little out of the water and putting it onto a rack that's probably gonna be there anyway.
But that,
I don't understand.
you're making my point, that the more we impose kayaks on our properties, town properties, the harder it's gonna be to use that space for anything else somewhere else down the road. We're already admitting that that's gonna be hard to do, getting rid of what kayak racks we already have, or dinghy racks that we already have, because they were originally designed to store dinghies at the launching ramp. That's what they were there for. There was no question about it. It wasn't even the kayaks and canoes weren't even a part of the conversation. That's only been imposed upon us recently, like in the past, well, you stretch it out a little bit, but the last 10 years, we've started establishing this policy that we are going to provide as much storage space as we possibly can for kayaks and canoes. It's mostly
Right, I
kayaks.
think,
But having established that policy, and to your point, you're right, it's really hard to reverse.
Right.
It's really hard to turn that back and
So-
say, wait a minute,
so why do we not
did we
wanna
have
try to
a
get more?
thorough conversation? Did we hear from everybody regarding our imposition of this storage facility on spaces that, like Lake Park?
Define everybody.
I would encourage, Ron, if you
Well,
have people
make it
who
a-
are against it, it would be nice to see some letters or some emails from these people.
Or
There's been
attend
there's
them.
been a couple
Yeah.
of the things we've discussed over the past year that you've said there's other people that share your opinion, which is wonderful. But it would be nice to hear from them because that would be a little more,
It would give it more traction.
well, not more traction, but I
No,
think,
if it's-
I think you're in a room of people who don't necessarily want to, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure. I think you might be the only one who would love to get rid of the kayak racks, and that's okay, that's your opinion. But
he'd be fine with them if they were all birch bark canoes.
Okay, Nancy,
Is there a fee?
14 feet.
Yeah.
Nancy.
is there a fee currently to use the storage racks?
Yeah, you need a dinghy permit.
Oh, you do? Okay, that's just clarification. Okay.
Well, that's why I'm
To use the
questioning-
racks,
I'm
okay.
questioning-
Yeah.
No motor.
That's
Yeah.
the distinction of saying there's a dry storage.
Right. And a
which
wet
would be
storage.
Cheaper traditionally, which therefore would encourage, by the way, Ron, I would just kick the table leg in front of you over. It looks like it's
Covered, fold up.
No, Ron, I'm not saying your opinion isn't heard. if there's other people with that opinion, it would be nice to hear what they have to say too. I'm not saying you need more people to have more traffic.
Right.
It is my opinion, but it's also a perspective. And if we can just relax the conversation to the point where you can hear that perspective, and that we could all argue that argument, if we could open ourselves up to thinking that it's okay, rather than just take an adversarial position. We could, as we go along here over the next 20 years, sort of try to reverse the process of imposing kayak racks on every little nook and cranny of town property that we can identify as potential kayak storage. I don't think that's what we really want to be doing. That's all I'm saying. And I think,
Okay, thank you for saying that, Ron. I propose a motion. And that should the town provide dry storage for kayaks, canoes, stand-up paddle boards, and other personal vessels?
Could I amend that proposal?
Yes?
A friendly amendment at a lesser rate than wet storage?
Can we keep that, hold that
Okay.
separate? Should the town, my motion is, should the town provide, do we support that? Should the town provide dry storage for kayaks, canoes, stand-up paddle boards, and other personal vessels?
So moved.
Pardon
I
me?
say yes.
So moved.
you seconding the
You
motion.
second that?
No, I'm,
I'm not sure why it's a motion since we already
I
do
want
it.
to make it a motion to have an action by the committee so that we can move forward.
I make the motion.
I think the best way for us to move forward is to focus on definitions.
Well, do we have a second? Or
Second.
not? All those in favor?
I can vote today.
Well, Kenny,
Yeah.
You second. Oh,
well,
Yes.
no, she's-
we're both
oh,
Oh,
alternates.
no, that's right,
Voting member.
Nancy, because you came late, it was your turn, but you were
Then
late.
they,
Sorry. Yes, okay,
I'll
so
teach you.
that's 4. Okay, so the committee feels that the town should provide dry storage for kayaks, canoes, stand-up paddle boards, and other personal vessels. And
I
that's.
guess I would like to point out that rack at the Steamboat Landing was originally set up and created for small dinghies that could be easily transported to and from the water.
That was the point I made earlier, and I pointed out also that it was limited to 10 feet. In fact, the sign is still there, limiting to 10 feet.
It can still be used for that,
It
right?
could still be used for that,
Yeah, oh, yeah,
if there were any space.
and
If the space wasn't already being occupied by kayaks, and some of them are 14 feet or more, they wouldn't even they don't even fit into the definition of a dinghy permit. In fact,
and they shouldn't be
So
there.
that's been a
there's
first
been a
come, first
canoe in
served.
the
I
water
think there's
down
only
there every
4.
summer.
I think there's only 4 out of 10 kayaks over there that actually have dinghy permits.
So the racks are first come, first served, because essentially
Did you hear the point?
Yeah.
That they don't,
they don't fit the dinghy definition.
No. That was the first point. The second point, which I just made, is that 6 out of the 10 kayaks that were there, and this was 2 weeks ago, they may be gone now, did not have dinghy permits on them. That's my second point.
That's an enforcement issue.
That's an
Yeah.
enforcement issue, which is,
Are we sensing an opportunity for Lyman Morse here?
No.
No,
No.
they don't want to get into this anymore.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Ron?
just as a point of order, we took a vote without having further discussion. Once the motions were made, we did not have further discussion.
Was further discussion called for?
If,
And we had it.
unless it wasn't, if the vote wasn't unanimous, I would suggest that it was, yes.
No. Did I call for discussion?
Not after the motions were made, no.
Okay. Is there a discussion on the motion?
I would suggest that well, I think that it makes the vote null and void, and I think I would like to make a motion or suggest, I don't know that it needs to be so formal as to make a motion. I think we're deep in the effects of this, the outcome of our conversations. I think I think the effects are longstanding, and the point that I'm trying to get to with regard to providing more and more storage in spaces in town property is that we are experiencing a creep that I think needs to be taken, have serious conversation about. I just don't think it's appropriate that we allow more personal objects to be stored in town facilities that may or may not fit a description. We haven't been able to clarify, for instance, we've got ambiguity in the fact that we don't have a definition of what a dinghy is in the town ordinance. And yet, when you apply for a space, it's called a dinghy permit. I think we need to put some energy into clarifying, and I don't want to get tripped up by putting names on things. I think what we're talking about is what are we selling permits for? What is the intended use of that permit? We just had a conversation with the Fisherman's Wharf where the
Ron,
intended
we
use.
have a motion. Can you limit your comments to the motion?
I think the motion is null and void, Elliot. I think we didn't follow procedure, and I think that's
Can we change the
Reasonable
wording
enough
to
to,
small boat or something?
Small vessel?
Small vessel or, and then revote so we can take care of Ron's vote? Can we do that?
Change the wording?
Well, since we don't have a definition for dinghy, which is not in our definitions, and we're calling it a dinghy, we could change the word on this to not dinghy permit
Small
application, not does
vessels.
dinghy have a motor, we need to, whatever it's in, small vessel, personal water, whatever we're calling it, but it shouldn't be dinghy because we don't have a definition of
we don't
that.
have a definition
Right.
for kayak. We don't have a definition for canoe.
Small, yeah, I don't know what it
Watercraft,
should be, but
period.
small
In
watercraft.
the ordinance. Well, but this is my point. This is all I'm trying to get to is we should not be taking votes on what can and can't be permitted at a town facility if we don't have a definition that tells us, informs us as to what the item is. I just think that that this deserves more conversation, and it should be going to the point of definitions, not furthering what the path that we've already gone, in my opinion, too far down, which is, and we are stumbling over these definitions because we haven't clarified them.
I'll restate what I believe my original motion context or text was. Does the committee support town provision of dry storage for canoes, kayaks, stand-up paddleboards, and other personal vessels.
I second. Are we gonna,
You understand that?
yes,
Well, I have one question about that, because when you say personal vessels, it's so specific about canoes, kayaks, et cetera, but we were also talking about lightweight inflatables. So we're gonna include them as personal vessels?
Okay,
We have boats under a
I
certain amount
will
of feet.
retract that and
Yeah.
boats under
limit
14
it to
feet?
kayaks,
What's the
canoes,
mandate?
and stand-up paddleboards.
What do you think, Chris?
I think without, to Ron's point, and looking in the definitions, without actually having agreed upon, I mean, you can make a motion, but in terms of what is the purpose, without actually having a definition of what is a dinghy, what is, to me, it's, you could also make an argument that it's more about what is the intended use, and that's, like, most of us agree that a dinghy, that you have a dinghy dock, so that someone who has a mooring can get in their dinghy and go out to the boat, not to have a boat. If you have a boat on the floats, that's your power boat that you go out to the island, that's not a dinghy, that's a different, and so dinghy defined by use rather than size. Some people might use a kayak as a dinghy to get out to their boat. In terms of what the storage is, I think unless you're actually gonna have a real process of inspection and monitoring. Is it length? Does somebody who has an ocean going shell that's 15 feet? Is that okay in a rack? If it's 10 feet, I'm just, I think to simplify, just for the purposes of this, is the committee, would you want to say that there is a distinction of a fee for boat stored on a rack versus a boat stored on a float? That's where, in the water.
In the water.
On a
In the
float
water.
or on a rack.
Right.
That's the distinction.
But
And I mean, because I think that the argument over access and racks and storage is mute. I mean, you could
Yeah, you might have
invite,
somebody who rows.
you could invite lots and lots of people in and get lots and lots of opinions.
Right.
That's, we know that the racks are probably here to stay. Aesthetically, I wish that no inflatable boats were ever allowed anywhere, but, because I think they're uglier than a bright orange kayak, but that's, I'm a wooden boat guy.
Could we request a different select person representative?
I wonder if our dinghy should be defined as not a dinghy, but whatever is the limit on our dinghy or on our dinghy permit, which is what, 14 feet, and small vessels under 14 feet. I mean, I don't know, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about any, whether it's a kayak or a hard bottom or an inflatable, it's a vessel under 14
Right.
feet. Is that,
It is
And for many years, there's been a canoe down there in the water every summer. I think its use is absolutely minimal. That's 17 feet. The 14 feet is unenforced and
right?
probably unenforced. Well, it's not unenforceable.
But you know what I'm saying? I think we all know what we're calling a dinghy, but
Yeah.
if we're getting tripped up on it, having it on paper that way. You know, we know it, we're considering a dinghy, anything that's going in the dinghy docks.
The motion didn't include the term dinghy.
I think we all know what a canoe is, but
But they're, right, but they're not, they shouldn't be under a dinghy permit. They should be under some sort of different wording.
maybe there's no requirement that it be defined in the ordinances. Maybe we don't need to do that. Maybe we've defined it by the ordinance states that it can't be more than 6 feet beam and more than 14 feet in length.
I don't think it really needs to change, but it sounded like you wanted a definition changed. I guess that's what I was.
We can't get a definition in the ordinance before we determine these and decide our
We can't
fees.
do
Sorry, Elizabeth, it sounded like.
Oh, I thought you
definition
wanted
change.
the definition to be a little more clear, because I think, I mean, I would think everybody knows when they're applying with their kayak or canoe, that they're gonna just apply for a dinghy application.
The motion that I offered did not include the term dinghy. It included canoe, kayak, and stand-up paddleboard. I didn't think those terms would require definition.
So
You know,
So,
you could almost say for small vessels that will not be stored in the water.
Because that's.
I
what
prefer to
dry
be
storage.
specific.
Under whatever feet.
Chriso, did I hear you say that it wasn't appropriate for us to take an action such as a motion on that issue?
No.
You didn't say that? Okay. So the motion is on the table and it's been seconded. Is there further discussion about it? Ron?
are you, so in your motion, you're precluding dinghies.
That's correct.
So dinghies can't occupy.
I didn't exclude them.
Oh, that's what that's,
The motion was about canoes, kayaks, and stand-up paddleboards. Does the committee
well,
support?
And other personal watercraft.
No,
I think
we
it's to
took
see if
that
we
out.
wanna move forward with
Took
talking
that
about
out.
them.
Just, yeah.
Or say we're not having racks anymore.
is this a motion to make a suggestion to the select
It's a
board?
statement by the committee that we support town provision of dry storage for canoes, kayaks, and stand-up paddleboards.
Well, I think it's safe to assume that conversation's already been had because we do provide storage space for those personal flotation, personal recreational.
I think your chair is looking to codify the support
Yes.
Correct.
on the record.
Right.
So that but it still is only ever going to be a matter of policy.
It's just to decide if we want to move.
It's not going to be codified. I mean, it's not going to be part of our code. It's still only ever going to be it's only ever going to be policy. I mean, unless we suggest that the select board make an amendment to the ordinance.
The committee does not set policy.
Well, that's what you're doing by
No, I'm
suggesting.
saying that is the committee support town provision of dry storage for canoes, kayaks, and stand-up paddleboards.
Which
Does
is
this
appropriate
group-
for an advisory committee.
We are an advisory committee.
So did you second or
I'm
we're
not-
waiting for more discussion?
I'm in limbo. I'm not sure what I'm allowed to do today.
Oh, sorry, you were.
Yeah.
The alternate.
It's already been seconded. This is the discussion portion of the process. Is that concluded? All those in favor? 1, 2, 4, and Stephen, yeah, all those opposed? Very good. 4-1. Now, getting back to fees. Do we want to have separate fees for canoes, kayaks, and stand-up paddleboards in dry storage?
Are we, somewhere there, you have to include lightweight inflatables if we want people to use them.
We're gonna have to do some sort of
That can be a separate,
education.
that can be a separate classification.
We're going to have to alter the application process.
Yes, right. I believe that that's a whole other dialogue for the committee to have as our suggestions and recommendations for the, as it's called, dinghy permit application.
So we're trying to see if we should have, what fee we should have for
Right. Do we,
personal, the kayaks, stand-up paddle boards, canoes that will only be stored out of the water.
And we shouldn't put dinghies in that as well that are gonna be stored underwater, out of the water?
I don't know if we want to.
let's talk about the dinghies separately.
All right,
Seeing as dinghy isn't
That's what we,
defined.
right.
We can define a canoe.
Not kayak.
Well, other vessels under blah, blah, blah feet, whatever the ordinance says.
Well, who knows what opening
I
that
can
might
tell you it
be.
exists
As
because
approved by
I
the harbor
measured it.
master.
Yeah, we measured it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not on this page, but it exists.
I can
What?
find out.
I'm looking, I can't find.
I,
Is there any discussion on a fee for canoes, kayaks, and stand-up paddle boards in dry storage?
75.
well, right now, we're charging them 125, right?
No, they're in the no motor, electric motor category.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yes,
Which is
Oh, it's, oh,
presumably.
yeah.
Which is 75.
Oh, okay.
Well, I think that's probably appropriate. It's like, I'm thinking about the relative cost to the town of maintaining 6-foot wide floating dock compared to whatever it is, 20 inches of a steel facility. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. But I'd like to see the small inflatable dinghies, specified as limited to rack storage.
That's a step in a direction I'm not ready to take. I think the racks are an option for people.
Mhm.
And there are, whether it's a small inflatable or some sort of canoe, I'm not sure we want to limit it to racks. And all of a sudden, we get more canoes than it's rack space. What do we do then?
Well, we get more small inflatables with motors. No, all right, I understand that. That's fine.
So we don't describe dry storage as part of the fee. It's just a permit fee for canoes, kayaks, and stand-up paddle boards.
No, we do.
I
That's
think
the
we
whole
do.
point.
I would go the other way. I would say that you're making a distinction between dry and wet and not making a distinction of what kind of boat can go on a rack. They're saying there's a fee for the rack, there's a fee to be on a float. And I don't think that we want to try and use the fee to make the policy of what boats go
What
on
boat
racks
goes
or
where.
where, and the market will, people will decide with what.
Where they want to
based
put
on
it.
the- Based on it being cheaper or more expensive and how heavy their boat is.
Okay, so
Wait,
is that,
Is that in conflict with the idea of not permitting kayaks, canoes in wet storage?
That's a different, I would imagine that anyone who's keeping a kayak on a, I don't know how many there, I don't think there are many. But anybody who's keeping a dinghy on a float, if we're given an option to save, to have half the fee and put it in a rack, I think most kayak owners would take that option.
Probably, except those that, some of those plastic boats weigh 50, 60 pounds.
Yeah.
And there are probably some elderly kayakers who can still kayak, but aren't going to want to schlep the 50-pound kayak.
I think Steve could have the authority to make those kind of decisions,
Yeah.
just like he did with the benches.
I'm not sure if I understand that we're talking about having distinct fees for storing
This doesn't look
vessels in the rack
right. Canoes,
as
okay.
opposed to in the water.
3, 4.
That would be my recommendation.
Oh, I see.
Then
I'm
that
sorry.
would
It's
present
it's
an
totaled
enforcement
twice. I'm
issue
looking down here.
for the harbor master and ensuring that people have the right permit on their vessel. Okay, so we'd have dry storage and water and wet. Yes, Ron?
The policy that we've followed up till now is that it's the racks were first come, first serve, as is the float that's down in front of the harbor master's building, which allows for dinghies to be on a float, not just tied to it in the water.
One on the bulkhead.
Mhm.
Yeah. And access to it is difficult. Elderly people aren't using it
Yeah.
because it's a vertical ladder, which is slippery at low tide. So it governs itself to some extent that way. But if you have a boat on that float and you take your boat out and you use it, you come back, the space is likely to be taken. So we're giving priority, I guess what we're acknowledging is that dry storage is preferred over wet storage.
I think we're incentivizing so that we can get a little overcrowding help. Is
But-
that was,
But the racks are already full. We don't have, it's not like we have an abundance of
Yeah.
storage space available in the racks. So
I guess
that
that
space
was
is
the idea.
already, if that space is already filled, then providing, I mean, we're not opening up more space. We don't have more space to open up.
Didn't we talk
Marine
about,
Avenue is wide open.
and also the new space
Well, that may
on
be-
Steamboat?
That,
There's potential for more room.
Yes.
yes, the
There
answer
is
there would be
potential
maybe
for-
more racks,
more racks, right?
which is not what you want to
Well,
hear.
that's where we're headed. That's where we're headed.
But we're
Let's,
looking at more dinghy docks too. And, you know, I mean, there is a demand. People want this, and if we can make it work. Not demand from everyone, I think. There's.
No. the demand is, well, make a blanket statement that the demand is probably not going to diminish. One might argue that it will continue to increase, the demand will increase. And at some point, and we may already be at the point where yes, we can put an L-shaped float off of at the launching ramp, to create more dinghy tie-up. There's, there may be places that we can make more dinghy tie-up available. And that is probably a worthy goal if our goal is to satisfy the demand. But at some point, we will have consumed all of the available space. And we may still not have met the demand. That's a reality that we're.
That's like the floats and the moorings.
It was first come, first serve.
You have wait lists and.
In the parking.
Yeah, right.
And there's going to be different opinions on whether we've had that, obviously your opinion is that we have fulfilled our capacity. And there might be, that's definitely going to have a very different opinion for different
Right.
people.
Can I ask about fee amounts here for canoes, kayaks in the racks? Recommendation for a fee amount?
Didn't somebody suggest?
I suggested
75?
75.
Is that for resident or non-resident?
Oh, boy.
Resident.
Well,
Because then we're not really changing anything except saying they can't put it in the water.
We're defining a fee for certain
But I will also
vessels.
say that the town dinghy fees are under market. compared to pretty much everywhere else in the area. You could easily bump some of those up.
Well, Rockport has an entirely different dinghy storage structure.
They have one for, yeah, but I'm looking at several other, but they have the Goose River float is the same type of float as ours, and that's more than we charge. And then the ones that are actually on a tie-out are even more expensive.
Of course, I'd like to
You're
point out that
suggesting that the
our
fee
suggestions in the past have been
for storage,
ignored
dry storage be the
by
same.
the select board.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I didn't-
And we have performed
Yeah.
surveys
My-
under
The
harbor
thing I printed off was different.
and dinghy fees in the past.
Yeah, I'm
This-
just
this
saying
is-
right now.
This may
it's-
be
Well,
different.
No, but you know, the truth of the matter is, and before we even get to individual stuff, for residents, all right, we've been hit with a big tax increase this year. We've been hit with parking fees that we didn't have to pay before. My feeling is leave them alone. I mean, so what if it's slightly less than some towns? You know, we're getting hit every time we turn around. Our water bills just went up significantly because of infrastructure improvements. Everybody's electric bills are going up. You know, we don't have to soak every citizen dry, even though they may be quote unquote yachtsmen.
I do have to go to a class, so, but I do support what Steve says. If anything, I'd like to see the non-residents come up, but keep the residents the same. And I resigned from doing the minutes. I'm teasing. But I'm just teasing, but I do have to go.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Does that mean I get to vote?
Yeah, you get to vote now, Steve.
Don't have any votes. Okay, we need to conclude our discussion about fees. Next meeting, which is scheduled for December 9th. 3 weeks.
So are we adjourned then?
Yes, I think that will conclude our activity for today. Meeting adjourned.
Ron, you can keep those dimensions I have.
Okay.
Just on the other side of the
Thank you.
schedule, so.
So did we add up total dimensions and divide it by 6?
Yeah, we probably did, but the problem was,
Yeah, I know.
some of those dimensions are right angled. And there are a few executive dinghy spots that
So you have
we
to,
don't include.
you just have to subtract 14 feet from one side of that right angle.
Or,
Did we,
there's lots of times somebody gets trapped in there.
Well,
There was one that
I know how
said-
it works. I
there's
know
one that
exactly
said
how it works.
usable, so they must have already adjusted on that one.
And your measurements account for codes being pulled up close,
It's just the.
Oh, yeah, which is using the 6 feet, sure, sometimes.
because oftentimes they're sort of, you've got to pull somebody out and pull somebody in. and-
We're already over,
That's what I'm saying, that's what I was asking.
However, one analysis we did make, because we were just counting dinghy permits, is that in terms of the number of permits issued, if you deduct the ones that were issued to kayaks, it's not as severe. One hour of the steamboat could probably handle us for a few years. The other things which we don't factor in, okay, in terms of increased demand, less demand, is there's such an aging community. You know, that some of those people are gonna drop out, and most younger people can't afford to come to this community.
They're gonna,
Is
they're
that
gonna drop
a
out.
new form of dying?
You are.
What a nice way to put it.
You see this little, it's a
Yeah.
Fuel drop out.
Belfast rationale of, and that's where having some kind of code is, am I paying for dinghy spot just because that's the boat I can afford? And for a couple $100 I can have it tied up.
You know, there are, I mean, I know I had some neighbors that do that. They have a rowboat, you know, they take that and that's their only boat.
You know, in out of it, I think it requires a level of dexterity that isn't part of it.
I know getting into a kayak. Getting it out onto a boat.
Yeah, yeah.